What's up, Bro Mob, and welcome to this week's show. Today we're going to be reviewing off-season news and notes, reading some very kind reviews from you listeners out there, and doing our very early QB rankings. Sit back and enjoy. Yo, welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody?
We are your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Monday, April 15th. And man, do we got a great show for you today.
Yeah, we do. I'm excited, man. Today is going to be a good day. We're recording. It's Sunday, so you're listening to this Monday. And today's a big day, dude.
Today
Number
is a
one,
big day.
we're recording our show. That's the biggest part. But the big talk today is, there's a couple things, but the big thing for tonight is Game of Thrones is back. And so
that's
are
right.
you I'm gonna confess here. I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for it, but I have not watched any Game of Thrones.
Oh, you're going to
Are
get
you a
torn
Game
apart.
of Thrones guy?
I am. I love that show.
I'm gonna
How
confess
have
to you.
not
the
seen
most-
any of it?
I don't know. It's, how I am. Like when I get into one show, I'll be honest with you. Like when I get into one show, I can binge watch if I'm not careful, and I'll be up till 2 a.m. watching, and it just consumes my life for, a while. Like recently I've been binge watched the show Friends. I've been binge watched Parks and Recreation, like just a lot of different shows that I love to watch. And I've watched these shows 2-3 times. And so, my fear is Game of Thrones will consume me like that, and then I'll have another show that I binge watch from time to time.
Well, it will.
And so
It
I'm
will
afraid of
consume
it.
you. But it's
I'm
a good
sure it
thing.
will.
It's a great show.
So the most I've ever seen of Game of Thrones is from Parks and Recreation. Ben
From
Wyatt,
another
there's
show.
a scene. Do you know what I'm talking about? So in
Yes.
Parks and Recreation, there's the scene where Amy Poehler gives her boyfriend Ben Wyatt in the show. He gives her, or she gives him a gift, and it's the Game of Thrones throne, and it's got like a bajillion swords in it.
Yes.
And the whole time he's just sitting back, and he's like, "Yes, who are you?" And so that part absolutely murders me and moitas me. And yeah, see, you moited me. And so there's a part where he's like, "Yes, when you play a Game of Thrones, you win or you die." Yes. No. And so that part,
That's the show.
absolutely, if that is the show, that's why I'm afraid to watch it, because that kind of stuff it gets me and it draws me in. And so I don't know. I'm probably gonna binge watch it here soon, and then catch up to the point where because this is the finale. This is the season or series finale, is it not? This piece
Yes.
here.
This is it.
Is it one show, or is it like there's a couple shows coming up here, right? Episodes.
Yep, right.
Got it. So anyway, that's the big deal going on tonight. But I think there's a lot going on by you, right? I mean, I think it's a winter wonderland in April.
It's snowing in the middle of April. God, I hate it. It's just we had a day of 73 degrees. I brought out patio chairs. I was getting comfortable. I was grilling. And then at the snap of a finger, it was all taken back by snow. We got snow on Wednesday. We're getting it again today. This is absurd.
What'd you guys do this weekend? Are you just shoveling snow, or did you actually do anything fun?
It's more depressing. Didn't do too much. Actually, I did. Completely forgot. The fiance and I had ourselves a game night on Friday, and it was fun. Played some games on said game night. Board games, card games.
Is that what you do on game night? You play games?
It's what most of the time, yeah.
Good. I'm just making sure.
It's a
I
good
got
time.
an idea of what game night's about. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
It was all like her girlfriends and then me. So, of course, I was super competitive. They were not.
So you basically almost got kicked out of the house, is what you're
I
telling me.
almost got kicked out a couple
Yep,
times.
I would have gotten kicked out. I probably would have just left before I got kicked out just to avoid it.
It was fun, so I just stayed.
Mean, you got to win somewhere. I mean, you certainly don't win in fantasy. So, hey, let's move on. I went kayaking this weekend, saw a bald eagle for the first time ever. That was really cool.
Bald first time?
First time ever, dude. So bald eagles are apparently kind of a big deal down here. And so they're a big deal in America if you haven't heard. And so, yeah, we were just kayaking and see this huge bird just flying around, two other kayakers, and he was looking for fish. And so we just kind of sat and floated for a little bit, watched him pick up a fish, and then I think he took off with one, and it was really cool to see him. At first it was like, what kind of bird is that? And then you kind of, squint the eyes a bit and realize, oh shoot, that's a bald eagle. So it was really cool to see. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
majestic.
Yeah, man. Yeah, very majestic. So speaking of majestic, how about this Tiger Woods stuff?
Oh, I can't be happier. It's great to see Tiger coming up in here. When was it's 11 years since the last major title, right?
14 yeah, 11 years ago, 2005. Yeah,
congrats to the big guy, though.
Big time. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment, especially with all the adversity he's gone through. To win a Masters this late in his career, is pretty impressive. It's his fifth Masters in his career. So hats off to Tiger. Congratulations, man. Well deserved. It was really cool to see. Also, just a quick congrats to Dustin Poirier. Won the interim championship last night for the UFC and called out Khabib Nurmagomedov. And so pumped about that. Want to see those two fight for that belt. We'll see if Khabib gets back in the ring or not. But hats off to Dustin. That was a heck of a battle last night in the octagon. So two really cool championship weekends to see. It was really neat.
Yeah, Tiger is good for both sports and of course golf. So it's just good to see him back in the swing of things.
I like that.
Well, speaking of victories and champions, last week Brian and I had ourselves a little bros battle over a guy named Mitch Trubisky. We asked Twitter who won that battle. And Brian, can you tell them who won that battle?
Well, I think somehow this got rigged. I don't know how. Twitter's got to be absolutely losing their mind.
Well, I'm going to cut him off because I won. And rightfully so, because it made sense. So I'm looking forward to winning that money at the end of the year, too, with our little $5 bet.
I don't think you'll win that one, to be quite honest. So I think I've got that one in the bag. But we'll see. I think I stand by my comments that Mitch is a top 15 quarterback. So I definitely think he will be. And I know we'll be talking about that here in a little bit, quarterbacks and stuff like that. So excited to talk about that stuff too.
Well, I'm looking forward to you talking less as it starts to dwindle down more and more that he's not one. So,
well,
all right, let's get the show started. The New England Patriots have signed tight end Austin Seferian-Jenkins to a 1-year deal, and they've lost one, so they just bring in another, right? Do you think...
Yeah, I don't think it's the same. So yeah, they lose one, right? They lose Gronkowski retires, but
huge.
ASJ is not going to be Gronkowski. I mean, there's a lot of hype. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to reach for ASJ, and look, I think he's got some value. They're not going to just throw him out there and then not use him. They're signing him as a short-term replacement for Gronk until they find a long-term replacement. But let's be clear, like, no one's going to replace Gronkowski. He's one of the greatest tight ends ever played the game.
It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's perfect. This is a 1-year signing. The Patriots are going to be, in my opinion, drafting a tight end because this draft is full of them, and they're going to move forward. A Cleveland Browns beat writer expects Nick Chubb to start over Kareem Hunt. Duh. This coming season.
Yeah. In other news, water is wet.
Yes.
So,
wait.
I mean, yeah. So there's really nothing to read into here. I think the biggest piece is them. The Browns saying that they expect him to start even after Hunt returns.
Yeah.
Still, he's going to start. I think Hunt gets eased in. He's probably looking at 5 to 10 carries, if that. So have it heavily used in the passing game. I think if they're behind, but yeah, I think Chubb's the guy. They didn't spend high draft capital on him for nothing.
Yeah. Antonio Brown, this past week has been throwing a lot of shade on Twitter, especially at his former teammate Juju, and a lot of people are shaking their heads. What's going on? What's in the mind of this guy? We know there's some crazy stuff up there with his gold mustache, colored hair. Finally, that stuff's gone, but the rest of it still remains, apparently. Jealousy does some crazy things. I do see this, however.
I think Juju is, Juju's up and coming. I think there's a lot of jealousy there. I don't think there's anything that happens here other than, I think you had made mention that you think it just drives them competitively, Juju and AB.
There's added competition here. And I love that. I think that improves their fantasy outlook this coming season for them to kind of produce better. So looking forward to that. Leonard Fournette, the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, was arrested earlier this week for some driving citations that he didn't pay. I don't see this affecting his upcoming season. He might get fined by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but there's really nothing the NFL can do to him. So Aaron Rodgers has come out and publicly confirmed that his injury last season was worse than we knew, and he really wasn't 100% last season. You think, Aaron?
Yeah, so this kind of frustrates me, dude. So first of all, everyone knew Rodgers was not 100% last year, and we'll talk about
came back
that from a statistical standpoint a little bit later. But what frustrates me is, so reports are that he has a crack in the shin bone right beneath his knee. And, that first game against Chicago is where it took place. He left the game. Everyone thought, oh, my God, he's done for the season. He comes back, lights it up, right? But if you watch the interview at the end of that game, he was blasted. He was higher than the kite. You could tell he was on painkillers. They went in and they said, look, we just paid you $100 million. You're playing, bro. And so they juiced him up, and he finished that game.
That was the happiest I've ever seen somebody after a major injury.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that
very
video,
happy.
You have to watch it. It's hilarious. But what's frustrating for me for these players is, how is that not substance abuse in the league? And I don't want to get too far off from fantasy here, and we'll keep this short. But how is that not substance abuse? But being under the influence of marijuana or something like that is, and there are players that are in the league that use marijuana or have claimed to use marijuana for, management of pain. So how is something like that considered substance abuse, even if you did it in a state where it's legal, but something like that is not considered substance abuse when you know that they're juicing him up every game and as much as they can to get him through the season? It's not disclosed on an injury report. And then it comes out like this, and the league just kind of turns a blind eye. I don't understand that. I guess that's part of the league that I just don't get.
David Johnson, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals, expects to get the ball a lot more this upcoming season, and especially in the shotgun formation, which he loves to run.
Good. I think he'll be a baller in the shotgun. I think he's going to have a great year. So he's, we said it last week. He's my guy. I've got my eyes on him.
I got my eye on you. Well, I think Cliff coming to town definitely improves it for him. We'll see. Cat's not on the bed yet.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen has agreed to a nice big contract with the Vikings. 4 years, I think $64 million. Incentives that could bring it up to $73 million. Good for you, big guy.
Yeah, congrats, Adam. Well deserved, and don't regress, man. Have a ball out this year. He fell apart a little bit last year, but hopefully, good things coming this year.
Wide receiver Chris Hogan has signed a much smaller deal, a 1-year deal with the Carolina Panthers, and okay, I think it's just depth at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, they got plenty of mouths there. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and then of course Mr. Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. So
yeah, I'm pumped about Moore. I don't think this does anything for. I mean, just other than just another mouth to feed, but I don't think
Right.
there's nothing to see here.
And finally, Sean McVay has mentioned that star running back Todd Gurley will be a focal point on the offense this coming season. And I think we all expected this. What I'm kind of raising my eyebrow to is that he has to even mention it.
Yeah, it sounds like to me it's almost like a diversion from hey, don't worry
Division.
about what happened at the end of the season last year. There's nothing to see here. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. And look, I don't care what you say. I'm still concerned about the knee.
Yeah, he was saying all this stuff during the playoffs as well. Super Bowl, Todd Gurley was going to be a focal point, and
Yep, and he wasn't.
It's concerning.
I think he's just doing it to get it off so that when they ask about it, he's like, look, he's a focal point. Okay, I said it last week, so it's just something to kind of point to so he doesn't have to answer it every week.
All right, moving on. Let's rank some QBs. So Brian and I recently finished our pre-draft rankings. I think last week Thursday, and you can find those on our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com.
Yep, and just so everyone's aware, our rankings are for a redraft league, half point PPR, no bonuses or anything fancy. It's just kind of a standard point system for half point PPR, and we'll eventually right now on our website, it's just for that ranking system. But eventually, we're going to have it set up to where you can actually pick whether you're in a standard league, a half point PPR, or full point PPR, a little bit closer to fantasy draft season, so probably in July sometime. And that way you can kind of sort players based on that.
So this week, Brian and I are going to cover the top 15 quarterbacks. We'll also break off to do some games in the middle of it and then come right back into it. And of course, to start off, the winner from the bro battle last week, me, I'm going to take it off, start with our number one, and it's easy. Pat Mahomes, last year, had 580 attempts, over 5,000 yards passing, 50 touchdowns, and was by far QB1 and player number one in fantasy world. And I don't see much changing. Even if there's some regression, which there will be, 50 touchdowns is a lot to do again. So there's definitely going to be some regression there. Even if he has 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, that's a QB1 in my eyes.
Yeah, I kind of with you. I think regression is definitely to be expected here. 4,000 and a 40 touchdown stat line is probably a lock for him, and it very well may be his baseline in his career. The guy looks electric on the field, and unlike any quarterback we've seen
for an arm.
Yeah, I mean, really, he reminds me a lot of Brett Favre in a way. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of comparisons there, but I think he regresses a bit. Look, it's very, very, very rare for a quarterback to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns and do it again the next season. There's only been two quarterbacks have ever done that. Drew Brees, I think, is in that range. And I'm not sure if it's the 5,050 more than it's the QB1 in fantasy. So Drew Brees, back-to-back years QB1 in fantasy. And Dante Culpepper, back into the early 2000s, 3 years in a row. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, can Mahomes be the number one quarterback again? Sure, he absolutely could. I think it's highly probable now that defenses have a whole year of tape on him. He probably regresses a bit. So we'll move on to number two. Number two, consensus ranking, Andrew Luck. So look, I mean, the guy got off to a slow start last year, 4,500 yards, 39 touchdowns. He had a bust ranking of 25%. That's very low. He was a super consistent quarterback, a guy that you can count on. Really, I think you're going to see maybe even the same stat line or better this coming year. I think if anybody can throw for 5,000 yards, it's probably him.
Yep.
And so I think Luck. The difference is Mahomes isn't at the number one spot, goes in the second round, late second, 210 is the ADP right now. Andrew Luck's going in the fifth, so you can wait a couple rounds and get a guy like Andrew Luck. I think that's a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I do see some regression here too. The guy had the second most attempts in the league, with 639. I think that comes down a bit to try and keep him a little bit more healthy. They run the ball with Marlon Mack a little bit more.
Yep.
But I do. The guy's a stud. He gets Devin Funchess added to the offense. He gets Jack Doyle back. So a lot of opportunities for him to throw touchdowns, and he can improve on that mark.
Yep.
Coming in at number 3 is the sidekick to Sherlock Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. Get over here. I've discovered a clue.
Watson. I love it. What? That is
one of my favorites. It completely threw me off. The sketch. It's too funny. But Deshaun Watson, without even having to talk about his rushing game, is quite the passer. Last season, he had over 4,000 yards passing, 505 attempts, 26 touchdowns, and that alone is up there with the upper quarterbacks in the league. I think that was 11th in passing yards and 15th in passing attempts. So he's going to get the yardage. He's throwing to people like DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and we're not even talking about his rushing yet. Last year, he ran 99 times for 551 yards, 5 touchdowns. Incredible.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
The only thing I think of that's more impressive is Watson the Sherlock. It's just a great little
impressive.
sidekick.
You know what else is very sneaky about him? 9 games versus top 10 defenses last year. So guy averaged about the same amount of points versus really tough defenses than he did good defenses, about 20 points a week. So yeah, I like Deshaun Watson at number 3 for sure. ADP at the 602 spot.
What I don't think is sneaky is you trying to sneak around and take him from me last year, but I took him instead.
Yeah, you did snake him from me. I did have him on my list. So, but he didn't do you any good anyway. Did you even make the fantasy playoffs in our league of record?
Don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Moving on.
So moving on at the number 4 spot, we have one of my favorite guys. So Russell Wilson, or as we like to call him, Wilson. So 3,400 yards through the air last year, 355 on the ground, which was a career high for him. He had 35 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. So he was super efficient with the attempts and passes that he had. So sacked 51 times though, career high, and was the 3rd most in the league. So if anything, I think Wilson probably recovers some of those sacks, and those sacks, if he's not taking them, could potentially turn into completed passes. So I think a little bit of a tick up maybe in the yards, but that team they're running the ball a lot. So I think I think Russell Wilson's right where he needs to be at the 4 spot.
Yeah, and interesting. Russell had no rushing touchdowns last season, so expect some.
What was his name? What was his name again?
So you can expect more touchdowns on the ground from Russell this coming season. At number 5, we have Drew Brees. And I can't say there's a safer pick in the quarterback world than Drew Brees. He's the pinnacle of consistency. Last season, 3,900 yards passing, 32 touchdowns. And unlike Russell Wilson, had 4 rushing touchdowns. So Drew Brees, though he's getting up there in age, and we saw a little bit of regression towards the end of the season, is still a solid quarterback for someone to have.
Yeah, I agree. Near MVP season too. The guy had a 74% completion percentage throughout the season. So straight balled, 6th round or 612 ADP. So yeah, Drew Brees, good pick. Number 6 consensus ranking quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. So oddly enough, he finished number 6 last year with ESPN rankings. The guy, again, we mentioned it earlier, guy had a fractured leg.
Incredible.
So, visibly, I think a lot of people noticed like he didn't look like Aaron Rodgers of the past. And it kind of showed. So, I mean, the guy still had 4,400 passing yards on the season, but where he really lacked was touchdowns. 25 touchdowns on the season. That's not like Aaron Rodgers. He's usually in the mid-30s.
Yep.
And so very unlike him, and still finished number 6. So if there's a guy on this list that I think could really outperform ADP, he might be one of them. 5th round right now is his ADP. That's unlike Rodgers too. Usually his ADP's in the 2nd or 3rd in the past. And so
I think a lot of
definitely
people are looking at this past season as something to be worried about. And his injury concerns are there. That offensive line isn't really that good, and he's been injured over the years. A healthy Aaron Rodgers, though, gets you the yardage, gets you the touchdowns, and listen to this. He only had 2 interceptions last season. 2.
Wow.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
And one little thing that not a lot of people talk about Aaron Rodgers is that he runs, too. He had 269 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns. So the guy, if he can just stay healthy, is a great quarterback. At number 7, we have Matt Ryan, which I might be crazy for thinking that he's the number 7 quarterback, considering he was number 2 last season and nothing changed. Actually, something's changed. He gets Devontae Freeman back. I might be a little crazy, but at the same time, Matt Ryan has kind of been inconsistent in his career. He'll do great one season, the next season he won't. And it's kind of that on and off throughout his whole career. But 608 attempts last season, I really don't see that going down, especially with their defense being as poor as it is. So I think Matt Ryan at 7 could be a steal for you. But at the same time, I'm tempering my expectations.
Yeah, it could be a steal. So, like you said, he had a crazy good year last year, 81% consistency rating on our charts. And so I expect more of a balanced attack in 2019. I mean, I think having Devonta Freeman back is the reason why it's more balanced. They're going to run the ball a little bit more probably. And so I think you see a little bit more of a balanced attack, but I agree with you. Matt Ryan, you can get Matt Ryan in the 7th round right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather,
it's insane.
I don't know about you, but I'd rather take a shot with a guy like Matt Ryan, who has a history. You know what you're kind of getting, you know what's there. Pat Mahomes is going in the 2nd round. It seems really expensive. So I like Matt Ryan, 7th round ADP. And, by the way, last year was the 3rd highest passing attempts he's ever had in his career.
All right, we're going to take a little break and play a game. This week's game is called Hate Us Because They Ain't Us.
Hate us because they ain't us.
They don't hate us because they ain't us. They don't hate us because they ain't us.
I'm used to it. They hate us because they ain't us.
Stop it. Don't say it again.
Basically, this is like an unpopular opinion. So whatever the fantasy world thinks of one player, they might love him, they might hate him. Brian and I have a very differing opinion. So starting with Brian, who's your first hate us because they ain't us?
Yeah, so we just talked about him a few minutes ago. Sherlock Mahomes, not the biggest. Yeah, Mahomes. Mahomes. Hey Watson, get over here. So I look, Sherlock Mahomes to me. I just his ADP is too high. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to produce quite what everybody thinks he is. I mean, look, last year, like we said earlier, over 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. It is extremely unrealistic to expect him to do that again. I just don't see it happening back to back. It's very, very rare. In the last 15 years, it has only happened twice that a top quarterback for fantasy purposes has repeated as the top quarterback. I think the odds are against Mahomes to repeat. Again, you had said earlier, is he a lock for 4,040? Maybe. I think possibly. And so, but 5,050, just don't see it. And he's being drafted as if he's going to do 5,050 again. So I just don't see it. So I'm just not a fan. I'm selling Mahomes stock right now, and I'm buying one of these guys in the back of these rankings.
Yeah. So what's unrealistic is you having any fantasy knowledge at all, because that dude is a stud. 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns. I'd take that any day. If that's like a guarantee.
I get it, but you're not going to take him in the top of the 2nd round or at the back of the 2nd round. I'm not having that. So why would you want to take a quarterback that early? Because
I like to win.
We try to teach our listeners here to stream quarterbacks, take them a little later, let everybody else pay up big for a quarterback, because you can get similar production in the back of the draft and by playing matchups. And so, Chad, that you've done it. I do it consistently. And so Look, I get it. I see the future in Mahomes, but I'm just not buying it.
You know who I'm not buying? It's Damian Williams. I get it. He came in at the end and he was electric. You know why? Because defenses were waiting for Mr. Sherlock to pass all over him. So there's no defense there to stop the dude. Damian Williams is a middle-of-the-line running back, if that. And that's why he hasn't made it onto rosters. He was nothing more than a third-string running back to them. They're going to draft a running back. I'm calling it now. He's not going to be what everyone thinks he's going to be. Someone's going to draft him in the third, maybe the fourth. And what's going to happen? He's going to lose his job, and he's not going to produce for you.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you. I do think you're terrible at fantasy, but I don't disagree with you here. And so I give you a lot of props. It's a good pick because I also will agree that I think Damian Williams is going to be a little bit of a, not a bust candidate. I mean, maybe he is a bust candidate. So I'll put that in there. I'll go there. Hey, hate me for it. I don't care. That's what this is about. And so, I'll say Damian Williams bust. And, it's interesting. We both picked Kansas City guys. However, I don't know about you, but I don't dislike Kansas City.
I actually love them. I think they're a great team. I just think we need to calm our expectations a little bit.
I think people need to pump the brakes. Everybody's going to overbuy that team because of the success last year. I just think they're going to have a little less success than they did last year. And because of that, I think people are going to, they're going to overpay and they're just not going to get what they pay for.
All right, let's get back into our rankings.
All right, number 8 is Cam Newton. So he's our consensus number 8, and he's not my specific number 8, but Cam Newton missed 2 games last season due to injury at the end of the year. Still finished with 3,400 yards, 24 touchdowns, added 100 carries for about 400 yards, and he's usually good for that. That's kind of his MO. Cam Newton's never really been a 4,000-yard passer in his career. He's always been kind of in the mid 3,500 range, and usually has about 100 carries for 400 to 500 yards. So right in his normal range. If he finished the season, those last 2 games, maybe he has a little bit more and he's at the higher end, but he was having a pretty good season. Right now ADP has him at 809. So, he's our 8th ranked quarterback. I'm concerned about the shoulder a little bit, and that's probably why he's not higher. So, I mean, as obviously there's risk with him taking him this year. So, draft with caution. I mean, you know what you're getting with Cam when you get him. You're getting the rushing yards, and that's really why you want him. But, with that throwing arm, I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like maybe they'll protect him a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't run as much.
Yeah, I know that they've said that before, but I definitely think he's going to run because that's just in his nature.
Yep.
I'm with you. Of our whole top 10, top 15 quarterbacks, he's the one that worries me the most because of that shoulder. But I'm not worried about the offense that's around him. Because like I said before, he's got DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, now he's got Chris Hogan, he's got Greg Olsen, and a little tight end that I really like too, Ian Thomas. And that's before I even mention Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. So he's got himself a great offense. And so if he can just stay healthy, he's, with the rushing yards, a top 10 quarterback always.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, but I have him at 9 because of the shoulder. It concerns me a little bit, and so we'll monitor it a little bit as the season continues or the off season continues, and we get closer to training camp and so forth. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Next, we have Baker Mayfield, and I love him.
For 9,
I could see him moving up in this as the season goes on. The guy, I'm fascinated by him. I think he's great. And you add Odell into the mix, and you got yourself a stud at quarterback. This could be one of those players that has the meteoric rise, much like a Pat Mahomes did. I'm not saying he will, but it's just one of those situations, and it's kind of the feelings that I have on the inside about him.
You can see it in his ADP. So he's at the 5'10" ADP spot, and so our consensus number 9, I have him at 8. So I do have him a little higher than you. And so I agree with you. I think he's going to ball out this year. I think they've surrounded him with talent. And so he's got all the tools. For some reason I'd have him ranked higher. I've seen people have him ranked at number 3, and I know we talked about this last week, but
I've seen him at 2.
Oh yeah. I think that's ludicrous. Like, you got to get out of here with that. No way does he need to be ranked that high. There's not enough evidence yet. His talent's there, sure. All the attributes are there, but you got to see it first. And so, give me another year. I want to see what he does this year, but I am optimistic.
Yeah, he's definitely walking into the season feeling dangerous, and that's a lot of confidence. That'll help him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, next spot we have the 10 rank quarterback Carson Wentz. And so we both have him at number 10. Our consensus is number 10. ADP is 805. And so missed 5 games last year to injury and had a fracture in his back, similar to the Tony Romo injury, I believe. So finished the year with 3,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 69% completion percentage. Not bad. And so, look, I think if he stays healthy, Carson Wentz is a star in the making. I think he has all the talent. They surround him with talent. And so, they're not far removed from a really, really good season with him. If he can just stay healthy, he's just had a hard time the last 2 years. So I think Carson Wentz has a good year. Hopefully he stays healthy. Look, I think he does better with a really solid running attack, i.e. Last time, they had LeGarrette Blount. I think that's when he was doing really, really well. I think he suffered last year from that a bit. So another reason why maybe Jordan Howard is now there. So I think good things for Carson Wentz ahead as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, we all saw regression coming because he had a ridiculous touchdown rate. It went down a little too much. And so I think we see him coming back up a little bit closer to what he is, and that's a great quarterback. If he could do that or get closer to that touchdown rate that he had 2 years ago, he could see himself even further in the top 10. Coming in at number 11, Jared Goff, or as Brian likes to call him, Jared Garfield, which I have no idea. What is that?
You're damn right. He sits around eating lasagna all day, dude.
What?
He's just a lasagna-eating 64%
hates Mondays
completion percentage having guy.
My God.
Yeah, I love him. Number 7 at ESPN ranked quarterback last year, just gobbling up all that lasagna.
All that lasagna.
That's right.
561 attempts, 4,600 yards passing, 32 touchdowns. These are the numbers of a top tier QB, and we might be crazy ranking him at 11, but I just see some inconsistencies, and also having the possibility of less Todd Gurley digs into that a little bit, a lot of it. Todd Gurley brings a lot of touchdown production and a lot of looks at the red zone. So if you don't have him, then Jared Goff is middle of the line quarterback. So I think 11 is right in the middle of where he could be from his high to his low.
I think with less Todd Gurley is like Jared Garfield's lasagna. Okay? Without a lot of lasagna, Garfield gets pretty angry. Okay?
It's true.
He gets into mischief. And I think Goff's going to have, look, he was the 7th ranked quarterback last year.
What happens if there's too much lasagna?
That's a good question. He gets fat and he gets really full, so it's a lot of them yards. And so, look, I think ultimately, all jokes aside, I think Goff, the 7th overall quarterback, is about the best you're going to get from the guy. So I think we've seen the best of Jared Goff, and so I think a little less Gurley means a little less production from Goff. Probably a little bit more struggle there, and so I don't know. I mean, there's no guarantee that we're going to see less Gurley, but I'm worried about the knee, so I think that plays into Goff's numbers a little bit. And so he's right now going in the late 9th, 908, and so therefore I like him at the 11th spot. So number 12 is we'll move on is Phillip Rivers. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is my guy. If I'm going to put my name on a dude, this might be the guy. Later this year we'll do a My Guys show, but Phillip Rivers, number 12, ADP right now is 1009. The guy finished with 4,300 passing yards, 32 touchdowns. He had a 68 58% completion percentage, which was the second highest in his career, by the way. Finished number 11 in quarterbacks in ESPN rankings. His completion percentage also tied a career quarterback rating as well. So I look at Phillip Rivers. I think to myself, this guy's like a fine wine. He just continues to get better with age, unlike a lot of other players. And you got nothing but good things coming down the pipe. You got the return of Hunter Henry, and number 12, I think, the 10th round, steal. I mean, look at it, 4,300 yards, 32 touchdowns. And we've got guys going in the 5th and 6th round that have stats much lower than that.
Yeah, I agree. Phillip Rivers is a steal. Up next at 13, we have Jameis Winston, who has Bruce Arians comes to town, who loves to throw the ball deep. He's got a lot of weapons around him. Jameis Winston, last season, he had 5 games over 300 yards passing, 2 of them with 4 touchdowns, and I could see him kind of hovering around there. He'll throw a lot of interceptions because that's what he does, but he'll throw a lot of yards, probably a lot of touchdowns, all those mouths to feed. It's a good situation for him.
Yeah, I think Bruce Arians makes him better, but I mean, he's our consensus 13. I have him at 14, but look, at the end of the day, I think Winston's not a bad quarterback, and if he can have a good system and he can mature a little bit, just personally, I think he has a pretty good season this year. So, number 14, Ben Roethlisberger. This feels wrong. I don't know why, but it just feels wrong. So this guy was the number 3 ranked ESPN quarterback last year, threw for over 5,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, had an 87% consistency rating. And the only thing that's changed is he lost Antonio Brown. And so I get it. I think that does cause him to regress from these numbers a bit, but he's going in the 11th round. If you ask me, hey, pick a guy that you think will outproduce his ADP, he's the guy I'm taking. 100%. I'm taking him over every quarterback on this list for that purpose. I don't look. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he lost Bell and he lost Antonio Brown. He lost Bell last year too, and he still did 5,000 yards. I think the reason he has so many yards is that defense hasn't been the same since they lost Shazier. And so the defense struggles to, keep teams from scoring, which causes Ben Roethlisberger to have to throw it. And I think he's probably, 4,000 plus in the mid 30s again next year. And so I think Ben Roethlisberger at number 14 in our rankings and in the 11th round specifically is a steal. I would take that all day long.
Yeah, last year, the 3rd ranked QB did lose AB, which is pretty significant. The guy had 15 touchdowns. So you got to find the person to replace that production. But yeah, it's pretty crazy seeing how low he is. And finally, at 15, we have Tom Brady, who, if we were doing this segment 3 years ago, I'd have been going, because it's insane. We're talking about the greatest of all time and 14 other dudes in front of him. But he's getting a little old, as we may know. Doesn't have as many weapons. He's lost Gronk. He's got an aged Julian Edelman. He lost Chris Hogan. There's really not too many names on that team other than what's at running back, which I think they're going to be doing a lot of, running the ball. So
yeah, but isn't the loss of players the story every year, Chad? Like every year,
yeah.
They're like, it's the same thing. It's, oh, well, he lost this guy and he lost that guy. Yeah. No more this dude.
It doesn't matter who's there.
And then what does he do? He throws for 4,000 plus yards and 35 touchdowns. Like it just seems like it's an every year thing. Yeah.
So Tom Brady at 15 is almost blasphemy, but I can't see him overproducing, at least with the squad that's around him, all these other players that we've mentioned. All right, well, that does it for our top 15 quarterback rankings. Remember to view all of our rankings, visit our website at thefantasyfootballbros.com. All right, let's go over some reviews.
You love me. You really love me.
So we gotten some really good reviews. They're really positive.
Yeah, so first, first off, just want to give a big thanks to everyone that listened to the first episode. It was a huge hit. We did more than double the amount of downloads we thought we would do in our first episode so far in the first week. And so it's very humbling. We're extremely thankful to everybody. We had a lot of great feedback, some wonderful reviews on both YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And so we had some really great things come out of that. I want to read a couple. And so I'll kind of read the one that I picked here. So this one comes out from, it's a 5-star review from, is it Amzoe? Amzoe? A-M-Z-O-E.
Is there a question mark?
I'll call it, yep, question mark. Amzoe. So this one comes in, great chemistry and tons of personality. These two are a blast to listen to. Definitely not your run-of-the-mill fantasy podcast. So thank you very much from Amzoe.
This one comes in from Spicier Than Usual. These two have a unique take on the topic and have a strong understanding to share their reactions and humor with fans of all kinds. Very nice. Kind words. Thank you, Spicier Than Usual.
That's a spicy review above.
That one comes in hot. Too hot for the hot tub.
Too hot. I like it.
Well, again, thank you. It's just incredibly humbling. Thank you for all the positive comments that we've gotten through. Even Twitter has been really positive for us. So thank you, everybody. We can't be more grateful. And if you want us to go ahead and read your review on the next show, go ahead and write us a 5-star review on Apple, 4-star, whatever it may be. We'll go ahead and read you.
Yeah, but let's be honest. You know it's 5 stars, so just give us that 5-star.
Well, that'll do it for today's show. If you haven't already, I don't know what you're waiting on. Go listen to episode 1 from last week. I kicked Brian's butt at the Bros Battle, and I feel pretty good about it. Be sure to tune in every Monday and stay up to date on the fantasy football world. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at FF Bros Podcast, and you can also check us out at our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.